In 1961, President John F. Kennedy said something famous. Do not ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. A lot of people feel weird about this line. Isn't America supposed to be about individual freedom? Why does this suddenly sound like collectivist propaganda? Here's the problem. We completely misunderstood it. So let's do a quick experiment. Forget Kennedy. Forget 1961. Just listen to the sentence by itself. Do not ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. What do you hear? Patriotism, sacrifice, civic duty. But if you were an American factory worker in 1961, you might hear something very different. Do not expect the government to raise your wages. Do not complain about weak welfare programs. The country is struggling. Everyone needs to endure. Good luck. And this is where everything goes wrong. That sentence got ripped out of its context and turned into an empty moral slogan. January 20th, 1961, Washington gets hit with the coldest inauguration day of the century. -7 degrees Celsius. Because history likes drama. A massive snowstorm covers the city overnight. Workers use flamethrowers to melt ice on the Capitol steps. Yes, actual flamethrowers. Kennedy refuses to wear a coat. He wants to look tough. Cold War tough. And, politically speaking, things were even colder. The Cold War is heating up. The Soviet Union launched satellites first. America looks slow. A U-2 spy plane gets shot down. Awkward. Racial conflict is rising at home. Martin Luther King Jr. is organizing the civil rights movement. The economy looks shaky. Poverty sits at 22%. Unemployment is serious. Kennedy barely wins the election by a razor-thin margin. So thin you can hear it whistle. He needs to unite the country. Fast. In this context, Kennedy delivers his inaugural address. That famous line appears in paragraph 26, so let's actually read the whole thing. And so, my fellow Americans, do not ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Applause happens. People feel inspired, very cinematic. But the next sentence is the real key, the one everyone forgets. Citizens of the world, do not ask what America will do for you. Ask what together we can do for the freedom of mankind. See the problem now? Now you can spot the first big misunderstanding. This line was not just aimed at Americans. People always assume Kennedy was lecturing his own citizens, like a motivational poster from the government. But literally one sentence later, he throws the exact same demand at the entire world. His logic works in layers. Americans are responsible to their country. America is responsible to the world. And the world is responsible for human freedom. This is a three-level responsibility chain, not a one-way sacrifice order. Misreading number 2. This was not a call for sacrifice. It was a call for participation. Context matters, and context got murdered. So what was Kennedy actually asking people to do? Pursue peace, defend freedom, engage with the world. Not just suffer quietly, not just shut up and obey. This speech was not about the state above the people. It was about citizens and government, fighting together. Now comes misunderstanding number 3, the most important one. Kennedy assumed the government goes first. Before he asks citizens to give anything, he spends a huge portion of the speech promising what the state must do. He promises newly independent nations that one form of colonial rule will not be replaced by a more brutal tyranny. He promises people living in poverty that America will help them help themselves. Only after defining state responsibility does he turn to citizens. This is not one side taking from the other. This is a contract. Government commits to rights and peace. Citizens commit to participation. That famous sentence comes after the deal is already on the table. Which means when people use that line to tell citizens to ask for less and give more, they're skipping half the speech, conveniently. And yes, that happened a lot. Vietnam era. The government says, do not ask what your country can do for you, like avoiding the draft. Ask what you can do for your country, like going to Vietnam. That flips Kennedy's message completely upside down. Reagan era. Some conservatives say, poor people should stop expecting government help and ask what they contribute instead. But Kennedy explicitly promised to fight poverty. So yes, that is awkward. Tea Party era. Extreme versions argue, real patriotism means demanding less from government and carrying more responsibility alone. Again, ignoring the first half of the contract. And here is the irony. Everyone who uses that sentence to demand less rights and more sacrifice conveniently forgets that Kennedy started by demanding more responsibility from the state. So what was the line actually saying? Not, stop complaining, work harder, be grateful. But instead, the government promises to protect your rights, fight poverty, and pursue peace. Now, are you willing to help make that happen? That is an invitation, not an order. A two-way contract, not a one-way extraction. So why did Kennedy design the speech this way? Because America was split, badly. The 1960 election was insanely close. Kennedy beat Nixon by 0.17%. That is not a mandate. That is a coin flip. He needed one sentence that could motivate liberals without terrifying conservatives. And somehow, he pulled it off. Liberals heard, the government will protect rights, fight poverty, pursue peace. Conservatives heard, citizens must contribute, work harder, do not rely entirely on the state. Same sentence, two audiences, perfect balance. That was not an accident, that was political engineering. Second reason, the new frontier. Kennedy wanted massive social reforms, education, science, civil rights, poverty reduction. But he could not stand up and say, hey everyone, we need higher taxes and bigger government. That would not end well. So instead he said, let us build a better country, together. Same policy, better marketing. Third reason, Cold War optics. America needed moral leadership, not just missiles. The Soviet Union talked about equality. America talked about freedom. Kennedy reframed power as responsibility. America is not a ruler. America is a caretaker. We are not perfect, but we try to do the right thing. That was the subtext, and it mattered. After Kennedy was assassinated, the sentence escaped its original habitat. Different groups grabbed it, used it, twisted it. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. By itself, the line can sound like, shut up and sacrifice. Inside the full speech, it means, join us in building something better. That difference is everything. And this is where modern misunderstandings come from. In some countries, the sentence is read as pure collectivism. The individual exists for the state, end of story. But in the American context, the assumption is different. Citizens and government are partners, bound by a contract. Rights go first, participation comes second. Kennedy would never say, just obey, just endure, just sacrifice. What he actually said was, we promise to protect freedom. Will you help us do it? Invitation, not command. Contract, not extraction. And that is why context matters, because when you remove it, even the most famous sentence in American history can mean the opposite of what it was meant to say. So next time you hear that quote, do not hear it alone. Hear the promise that came before it. Hear the contract. Because without context, a sentence about shared responsibility turns into an excuse for silence. And that is how history gets misused. Same words, different meanings, depending on who cuts the clip. Now here is the fun part. If Kennedy gave that speech today, who do you think would quote it first? And which half would they conveniently forget? Tell me in the comments. Because history does not repeat itself, but it absolutely gets cherry-picked. If you want more moments like this, where famous quotes get put back into context, you know what to do. See you in the next one.